Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the 7-Minute Takeover, where we talk all things acquisitions. I'm Liz.
I'm Eammon.
And today is our first MythBuster episode.
So today we're going to be taking on one of the biggest myths there is out there, that you need millions of dollars to buy a business. Here's the reality. You do not need millions of dollars to buy a small business and become your own boss. We will share where this myth comes from, why it's nonsense, real ways to get started on your path to business ownership, and some fun stories to back that up. So Liz, where do you think the myth came from that you need millions of dollars to own a business?
Well, I think unless you come from an entrepreneurial family or you come from a finance background, there's really not a lot of content out there, or there hasn't been historically, about buying a business. You might see Dragon's Den episodes where people are talking about investments, but it's really been kind of a trend and a movement that's been under the radar. So without a whole lot of people talking about it or a ton of programming that supports it, there's so many people that don't know that you can even buy a business. And so that's why it's kind of not really in the limelight.
Yeah, and I'm guessing when the corner shop gets bought and sold, it doesn't make front page news. So that's probably another reason.
Definitely not. So when you see that a small business has usually changed hands, usually you only hear about it after it's already happened, because they don't advertise that publicly that they're for sale. And so it's kind of this underground market that exists without basically the general population knowing that it's a thing, that it's going on.
Awesome. So in the myth busting world here, we've got to prove that it is a myth and that there are ways to go about doing this. There are actually some really common tools available to business buyers that, again, there's not a lot of public knowledge about. So when you're buying a business, there's a few different parties that can help you to finance a transaction, that can help give you money to buy that business, which may drive the amount that you need to pay down to, as low as 10 to 20% of the actual purchase price. For one thing, in the small business sector, sellers themselves may actually offer to finance part of the transaction. They'll take delayed payment in the form of a seller note, or a vendor take back as it's known, commonly about 10 to 20% of the transaction. There's also banks that will lend to support a business acquisition. One really common one in Canada is the Business Development Bank of Canada. So for the smaller transactions, they may be willing to give amounts of financing that are higher than a bank will be able to, but certainly the senior banks, the large banks in Canada, also have programs to help finance business acquisitions. There are also some other tools, such as finding co-investors or buying businesses that are just a little bit smaller as a place to start.
Yeah, there are a lot of small businesses out there where your down payment can be less than $100,000, and that business can provide you a living wage. And once it's paid down, then you've got more cash flow to grow or pay yourself more and increase your salary as well. So some of the small ones that we've seen on the market might be like a dog daycare, tutoring services, Main Street companies that you need to do your everyday services. Child daycare as well. So lots of small businesses that are out there in the market. And our sister platform, buyandsell-a-business.com, has many of these opportunities on it, where they're easy to pick up a small acquisition or growth or acquisition in that way too, and pick up a smaller business if you're already in the industry. So thanks for the tips there, Eammon, and the other strategies. And
yeah, I think what we've seen as well from our clients, obviously we've advised on a number of these transactions where the equity down payment required from a buyer is less than 100 grand. It's not like we go around advertising this a lot, but we've even seen situations where a business buyer had to put down $0 onto the balance sheet. Now, that was accomplished through a mix of bank financing and a seller note. The seller offered 50% of the transaction value in the form of a seller note, which drove the buyer's equity down to 0 down. Now, you're not going to find that too often, so don't come in with the expectation that no money's going to be required. But again, it just highlights that with the right mix of partners, investors, the right type of business, the need to bring millions of dollars of your own money to the table can be mitigated pretty significantly. So we love to see those situations.
It's definitely more achievable than many people think it is. And lots of people don't ever explore it because they feel it's so far out of their reach, but it's actually more achievable and more common than you'd know. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, great chatting with you on this. I think we're coming back the next time to bust another myth in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, Eammon. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.